Crash Twinsanity. So again, you may be looking at this like, how is this game underrated? It's a part of one of the most popular franchises of all time, that being Crash Bandicoot. Crash Bandicoot is obviously a huge series dating back to the PS1 with Crash Bandicoot 1, 2, and 3, and then you had some of the spin-off games like the racing game and the Crash Party game. However, if you know anything about Crash Bandicoot, it's a series that definitely, how do I want to word this? It has quite the range when it comes to quality. So, you know, you have like the top of the bar, you think like Crash Bandicoot 1, 2, and 3, and personally, I'd put Crash Twinsanity at the top there as well. Then you have some other titles like Crash Tag Team Racing, Crash Boom Bang, for example, which some people would probably put, you know, a bit lower on that spectrum of Crash games. Personally, I still really enjoy those games, but I know there's a lot of Crash fans out there that definitely can't say the same. And Crash Twinsanity is one of those games where, compared to some of the other Crash games, it definitely gets more love compared to those not so liked Crash games. However, I feel like it definitely deserves way more love than it gets now, and I feel like it even deserves more love from like its developer and publisher. As most of you probably know at this point, Activision owns the Crash Bandicoot IP, so you know, if we could get a Crash Twinsanity remake or remaster, I would really appreciate that. Basically, to kind of give like a quick rundown of Crash Twinsanity without delving too deep into spoiler territory, it's a traditional Crash platformer, if I'm gonna be honest. However, the level structure is a lot different. So if you think back to like Crash Warp, for example, you had the Warp Room where you jump into different levels, you could choose between the different stages, and that was that. However, Crash Twinsanity, it's more of a story-driven, interconnected world. So as the story goes, you're taken to new locations, and inside of those locations, there's like mini hub worlds that you can interact with. It's kind of hard to explain, but it makes sense once you play it, and it may even sound bizarre as I'm sitting here trying to explain it, but each of these stages are basically like their own little hub worlds, but you're exploring these hub worlds, and the hub worlds drive the story forwards, and even after you finish up your business there, even after you finish up the story quest, for the most part, you'll be able to like go back, collect gems. However, that does lead to some complications. If you know what I'm talking about, then you know what I'm talking about later on towards like the school section, for example, where if you happen to accidentally backtrack, you could actually end up repeating a certain part of the story, which I ended up doing on my first playthrough, and yeah, that was a little annoying to say the least, but I didn't mind because that level was actually pretty fun. There's also a lot of really clever nods in this game to previous entries, like when Cortex is like, the Wrath of Cortex didn't make as much money as we hoped it would. I don't want to talk about this game too much because this truly is a game that I feel like everybody should experience at some point, and hopefully we'll get a remake or remaster of it at some point down the line. But if you have a PS2 or an Xbox original, I highly recommend picking this game up. It is so much fun, and it's so good. It's personally one of my favorite Crash games. Call it nostalgia bias, but this may actually be my favorite Crash game. I know, I'm gonna be canceled by the community for saying that, but I genuinely love this game that much.